Today, we're going to talk about a really powerful way to think about B2B growth, especially if you're in the tech or SaaS world. We're going to explore how you can shift from just, running campaigns to actually engineering your growth step by step.
So this is the big question, isn't it? You know your ideal customers are out there. You've got a fantastic product, but actually cutting through all the noise and getting in front of them, well, that's tougher than ever. This whole framework is about making sure they don't just find you, but that they trust you and ultimately become customers.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll break down what engineering growth really means. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of a full funnel strategy, look at some proof that it works, see how a partnership like this actually comes together, and then we'll wrap up with a really important question for your business.
Okay, let's jump right in with this foundational idea. This is all about a major shift in thinking. It's about building a sustainable, predictable growth machine, not just running a bunch of disconnected marketing campaigns and hoping for the best.
So this is really the heart of it. Growth engineering isn't just about one-off tactics. Think of it as an integrated partnership that uses data, a bit of creativity, and a dash of AI to optimize every single part of the customer journey, from the very first time they hear about you to the moment they sign on the dotted line. It's all about driving revenue.
So that's the big idea, but how does this philosophy actually translate into action? Well, it's all built on a cohesive, full funnel strategy where every single thing you do is directly tied to bringing in revenue.
You know, a successful growth engine really has three core stages. It all starts with a rock-solid strategy and brand foundation. From there, you move into creating and nurturing demand. And finally, you convert that interest and analyze the heck out of the results, which creates this awesome feedback loop that just keeps making the whole system smarter and better.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts with that solid foundation. This is where you set a clear growth strategy with your leadership. You nail down your brand's messaging and position in the market, and you build a really powerful plan for those big moments like product launches.
Next up is the engine itself, demand and nurture. This is where you get proactive. You're actively attracting and engaging your ideal customers through things like targeted account-based marketing, or ABM. You're capturing their intent with paid search, building up your authority with SEO and content, and using automation to keep those leads warm.
And finally, you got to close the loop with conversion and analytics. This is where you turn all that interest into actual action with things like high-performing web design and conversion rate optimization. But most importantly, you use web analytics to create that crucial feedback loop, so you're constantly learning and refining the entire system.
Okay, theory is one thing, but what's really interesting is seeing the tangible results. So let's look at some real-world examples of how this strategy really pays off.
Check this out. For one SaaS client, a full funnel strategy that combined account-based marketing, PPC ads, and automation generated an incredible £1.6 million in new pipeline. And get this, they did it in just 6 months, all without increasing their cost per lead. Incredible.
And here's another one. A targeted campaign for a B2B SaaS brand drove a 172% increase in qualified leads. Now, that focus on quality didn't just bring in better leads, it also helped speed up their sales velocity by 22%. That's a huge win.
I mean, this slide just says it all, doesn't it? By simply refining their messaging and their landing pages, this client's conversion rate for demo signups almost doubled. It went from 38% all the way to 72%, without spending a single extra dollar on advertising.
And that same focus on efficiency had a massive impact right here. By smoothing out the buyer's journey, they slashed their form abandonment rate from a really painful 70% all the way down to just 15%. That means so much more of their valuable traffic was actually converting into leads.
You know, this consistency really speaks for itself. A 90% retention rate across active clients just goes to show you that this isn't about short-term wins. It's about building a sustainable growth partnership that delivers a consistent return month after month.
And this, right here, is what it's all about. This quote from a client CEO directly connects a specific marketing activity, in this case, pay-per-click ads, to a 25% growth in their overall business. That is how you turn marketing from a line item on a budget into a true revenue driver.
Okay, so the strategy makes sense, and the results are pretty compelling. So let's get practical for a minute and look at how a partnership like this actually works.
Well, the model is designed to be super flexible. It could be a one-off project, like building a new website. It could be an ongoing retainer for things like SEO and paid media. Or it could even be senior strategic leadership through what's called a fractional CMO engagement. The point is, the structure is always matched to whatever your specific goal is.
Now, this timeline is incredibly useful for setting expectations. You can see some quick wins from paid media and conversion rate optimization, or CRO, in the first 30 to 45 days. More complex stuff like ABM campaigns, they start to show an impact in about 60 to 90 days. And that foundational work, like SEO, that builds compounding returns over 3 to 6 months.
And here's something crucial. You don't have to rip out and replace all your existing tools. The whole system is designed to integrate seamlessly with the B2B tech stack that most companies are already using. From CRMs like HubSpot and Salesforce to all your core analytics and ad platforms.
So, we've covered the philosophy, the strategy, the results, and the nuts and bolts of how it works. So, what's the single most important idea to take away from all of this?
It really all boils down to this: building one unified plan. A plan where your brand, your demand generation, and your web presence all work together, totally in sync, toward that shared goal of creating a measurable pipeline with clear, board-ready reporting.
So, we'll end on this question for you to think about. In your own organization, right now, is marketing viewed and measured as a cost center, or is it structured, respected, and treated as a primary engine for revenue? Because really, the answer to that question changes everything.